Hi, everybody. I just wanted to take a moment to kind of re-emphasize a pretty important point that we made today in class, and that's on forgiveness. Now, our lesson was about handling conflict, and it dealt with a lot of major issues in how spouses should handle conflict. If you weren't there, I'm sorry. But this element that we discussed today is so important that I thought we should really take another look at it. Now, forgiveness is a choice of your will to not allow anyone to control your emotional well-being except for God. Forgiveness is also a private, vertical act between you and God. It has nothing to do with somebody who has hurt you in the past. When we're dealing with that person who has hurt us in the past, that is reconciliation. And reconciliation is a horizontal act between two people. As Christians, we are commanded in the Bible to forgive, mainly because we've been forgiven by God. And when you choose to not forgive somebody, you are committing a sin because you are choosing to separate yourself from God's will. God wants us to forgive. If God forgave you, that also means he can forgive your offender as well. And that's a hard thing for us to get into our minds. A lot of us want to say, well, I'll be willing to forgive my offender as long as they do these 4 or 5 things beforehand, and then I'll be open to forgiving. Well, think about it if God said that to us. If he said, Paul, you know all those horrible things that you've done in your life and how you've hurt people? I'll forgive you if you do these 500 things. I'd have no chance at forgiveness. God says, look, we're going to wipe the slate clean. I'm not going to allow you to carry that guilt or burden anymore. You've asked for forgiveness. You're forgiven. Now, reconciliation is very different. Like I said, it's a horizontal act between two people. While we're commanded by God to forgive, we are not commanded by God to reconcile with our offenders. And it's completely understandable that there are some offenses that are so bad that you can't be around the person who offended you ever again. You can't talk to them. You can't even look at them. Now, if you choose to reconcile, that too is a choice, but not a commandment. Like I said, forgiveness is a choice to behave in a manner that God has commanded. Reconciliation is a choice that we make on our own. Both of those stop allowing the offender to have power over you. It takes the offense off the table so you can go on with your life. And as we talked about in class, when you forgive somebody and you go to God with that forgiveness and say, God, I know it was bad, but I need to forgive them because it's just driving me crazy. Every time I think about them, I look at them as a monster. The way you get over that is you go to God in forgiveness and you remember that Jesus died for your offender as well. And when you start to look at your offender through God's eyes, the way God looks at you, they're not as much of a monster. And once you've done that, God can do amazing things with that forgiveness. Now, then if you wanted to go reconcile with that person, that can be very difficult and very hard. But if you let God be part of that reconciliation process, even though it's between two people, there's been time and time again evidence that shows that God can do amazing things between two people who have reconciled because something bad has happened in the past.